It's Cooking with Cuisinart. Great recipes from master chefs. Now, one of America's greatest chefs, Hubert Keller, from Fleur de Lis in San Francisco and Las Vegas, the Burger Bar in Las Vegas and St. Louis, and Sleek Steakhouse in St. Louis. And now, today's recipe.
Well, there's nothing better than homemade scones. They're becoming more and more popular, obviously, and it's a great item for breakfast, but probably don't realize how easy it actually is to make them at home. And actually, if you have one of those food processors, I'm just gonna share with you a very quick, great recipes, but let's start with the dough. First, I will add some sugar into the cup, some sugar, a little bit of salt, a little bit of baking soda, and now the flour who goes in. So just gonna gently lower that into the working bowl right here. So now I actually will blend that together just for about 10 seconds with on and offs, just to blend it really in between the sugar, the salt, the flour. So once I have that, let me add the butter. So it's very important that the butter is kind of chilled, not too soft at the moment that you're putting it in, because the speed of the blade actually warms up the butter and mixes it nicely in. So we want to have the butter chilled. And now just a couple of on and off until the butter really mixes nicely into the flour mix. And the whole idea, the consistency, we call that in French sablé, it means sand. So as long as you take it out and you can see it's actually like sand, that the butter is evenly mixed but doesn't form any lump. That's exactly the consistency we wanted. So once we're here, now we're gonna add the liquid part of our recipe. So first, I'm putting a whole egg into my cup, putting a little bit of vanilla extract in it. And now I'm adding some buttermilk that really gives a nice little texture to my scones. Okay, so now I'm just gonna mix that up. Once I have that one ready, just gonna put it over here, removing that. So now we're putting back the lid, taking the feeding tube off, and just by letting it run slowly, I'm gonna pour that in until the whole dough comes together. So it's very quick, just control it by pulsing. Okay, so you see how very quickly it's gonna come together and it almost forming a ball. You really don't want to overwork, so like on and offs, right? Like the way I'm doing it, until you can see it's coming together. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. Now I will add actually the little currants into it, but I just want to give them a couple on and offs so that the currants are not chopped up too finely. So just a couple on and offs, and then I just will finish the dough by hand on the working surface. Just to mix it in. There we go. So now, once I have that, we're just gonna remove it, and I'm gonna mix the part of it by hand into it, just by adding a little bit flour on the working surface. Okay, so let me just mix that in by hand. So we really don't want to overwork the dough. So just by pushing it against the working surface, as you can see, I just nicely mix in the currants. You see we have a nice little bowl there. So now I'm just gonna roll it out. So a little bit of flour here. And you could see actually how easy it is, right? When I make it homemade, when you have one of those food processors instead of just buying them. So what I will do here, I'm just gonna nicely roll them out. And I just wanna make sure I get a nice long rectangle. That's the whole idea. I'm gonna spread them out here. Okay, so once I have that, let me just shape it exactly. You can shape it with your hand exactly the way you want it. how long you want it or how thin. I would say that's a perfect size right over here. So once we have that, now with a knife, you're just gonna cut them. So just like in triangles. And that recipe gets you about 8 scones. So you see just cutting these triangles. So once we have that, so very easily, I'm just gonna transfer those on the baking sheet pan. When I transfer them, I'm just gonna turn them around so they have a really nice finish on top. So that's a little trick right there to remember. So it's a really nice finishing edge on it. So let me put those nicely here. Okay, there. And over here, and then the last ones. So again, it's easy, you don't have to wait, you don't have to let it rest too long. And once on that stage now, I'm just gonna brush them up pretty nicely and generously with some cream, some pretty generously cream right on top that adds a nice little texture to it. And really by sprinkling a little bit sugar on it after, you're actually building out a nice little crust on top of the scones. Okay. So now goes the last one right over here. Okay, so you could see again how really easy it is. So now, like I said, very generously sprinkle some sugar on top. And if you like them kind of really sweet, don't be afraid, right? You cannot go wrong here. Even if you put a little bit extra sugar, nothing can go wrong, right? They just have a nice little crust on it. And if you have a sweet tooth, like I do, I usually like to add a little extra sugar on it. So now I'm gonna put those in a preheated oven at the 375 degrees for about 35 minutes until they're really nice and golden brown and crisp. And obviously you can see right over here how they're actually proofing in the oven and how they're building up the crust. So again, I hope I convinced you how easy it is to make it at home and by definitely using the food processor just to get a perfect result.